right, Chris Holden, Crum Forster. What's going on, man?
Not much. How you been?
How you doing? Look at this, dude.
Good.
We're in a subway. CISOs in a subway.
Yeah. It's the first subway series. Usually it's a car.
You know, it's usually a car. It's usually a semi-fanciest car. We've done the London taxi, but in New York, you gotta do the subway, right?
Gotta do the subway.
And I couldn't even go around and test out, right? Because there's not that much in California.
Yep.
So usually over here, we completely are, driving around.
There you go.
Obviously, when you're in New York, you gotta be in the train.
Gotta be in the train. Yeah, I don't think there's yellow cabs anymore, so it's this is the only thing nostalgic left.
No, I mean, so you come out here often, huh?
Yes, I lived in the city for several years, and then post-pandemic, got out, went upstate like most other people, and then come back every once in a while now.
Been wild ever since, huh?
That's right. Yeah.
Do you like it out there here, or do you like it over there? The fast-paced life of New York.
You know what? I like it. I like it a little slower upstate. But you miss it sometimes, so it's an easy train ride down. I usually try to get back about once a quarter, and the industry's based here as well.
That's true. So what made you go into cyber, man? I just got to know, because I mean, everyone always asks the question, hey, how do you go in?
Yeah, definitely. So I went to college to play football. That was my only motivating factor to go to college. And 2 years in as a criminal justice major, I said, wait a second, I actually need to do something with this time spent. And I went to Utica College, now Utica University.
Right.
They were one of the first few schools to have an actual dedicated cybersecurity degree program. So I had one friend on the football team at the time that was also in the program, and he convinced me, go have a conversation with the director of the program. Went to his office, and he wouldn't let me leave the office until I switched my major.
Really?
And from then on, it was
But what was so compelling about it? Like, why did you? What was the reasoning?
Yeah. So for me, it was new. They were trying to really build the program up.
Right.
At the time, this was 2008, 2009 timeframe. And for me, I was just, like I said, I went to play football.
Yeah.
Education was kind of a secondary thing for me. And it was the first time every weekend in the library, even to my senior year, I sacrificed my football season a little bit to finish classes and graduate on time. I was just hooked instantly with the first class. It was the first time I enjoyed school.
And so what was the actual degree? What was the major?
So the official degree was a Bachelor of Science in cyber and cybersecurity investigations and forensics. It was very forensics focused. We had a forensics lab on premise. A lot of our professors were, a lot of them were professionals.
Law enforcement.
Yep. Local detectives.
Does that translate to what you do today?
So it does. It was a good launching point. So at the time, a lot of the career progression in that, I always thought my goal right out of college was I was going to be law enforcement of some sort, FBI,
right,
or work for the government. It wasn't until later got my foot in the door at Hewlett-Packard right after graduation that private sector kind of materialized and started ramping up. Exactly. So at the time when I joined HP, there was under 100 cybersecurity professionals in all of HP, a 330,000 person company. I think now, obviously, the company is much different.
Much different.
I'm sure it's in the thousands of individuals. So it's been an evolution, and it was a quick one, right? It's only just over a decade.
Yeah. Do you think that when you're going in and just seeing where you were before, there's never a straightforward path to where you are now, right?
No. So yeah, it's after, I was internal at HP for a few years, came back to I was out in California. I wanted to get back on the East Coast, came back to New York, did the consulting thing for a while. And I really think the consulting, when I was a consultant, is really kind of what launched my career, right?
On this whole path.
Exactly. Yeah. So the thing I loved about consulting, we were a smaller boutique firm. You were thrown into a lot of situations where growth was mandated, right?
Yeah.
Whether that was learning new components, right? I went in with a forensics and incident response background. I was able to learn penetration testing. I was able to learn web app testing. I was able to get my hands dirty at a young age, helping build and develop programs from the ground up.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, where the trajectory turned and got me to where I am today as a CISO.
I presume that you're a big fan of pushing the boundary when it comes to starting from scratch and starting from the ground level and getting to the details and weeds of everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think
rather than like, because sometimes people think, oh, you can just like go straight to a managerial or like a executive level, but it's like more being in the details. I think it's more helpful than.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword a little bit, right? I think you see this with a lot of CISOs in the industry, right? There's a big complaint now that CISOs are too technical and not enough business focused. Then you see the business CISOs that aren't technical enough. So there needs to be an element of dynamic balance, exactly, to your experience and to your background, right? I think there needs to be, I think the technical CISO is going to get left behind on the business side, right? Cybersecurity and the CISO role is a business risk position, but the CISO that is all business focused, has that background that's not very technical.
Yeah.
You can't communicate the risks, right? So I think it takes the, you need to really have a little bit of both. And it's an opportunity, I consider myself to have a technical background. It's a learning opportunity still for me, trying to work out the kinks to get it right.
Like the soft skills, let's call them.
Exactly.
And so then when you take the soft skills and go in and now, given where you are now, is now running cyber at like a pretty big company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest challenge you've ever had like there?
Yeah, I think so. I joined the company as a manager, and within
you rose through the ranks.
2 years of working there, it became a different position. Completely, the opportunity came up for the CISO role, and I stepped into it not expecting a CISO role at the time, and but it was always in my career trajectory. That was always my end goal. I always really liked the managerial aspect. Consulting gave me a good background in that, but like I said, I have a technical background. I think one of the biggest things for me is I've never been so technical to the point that I couldn't pull myself out of those weeds,
right,
and be able to have a conversation with a CFO, have the conversation with the CEO in a non-technical capacity that they can understand how is cyber a true business risk to them. And I think with that, the biggest challenges of anything is cyber's changing daily. Right. You have
the way that we're doing something 10 years ago is very different than the way we're doing it today.
I think, 10 years is too long.
Yeah.
I think to even frame it in, it's 3 to 5 years.
And something's changing.
And even that is too long, right? It's really, it's basically day to day at this point.
Right.
I think we're getting our hands on it. We're getting obviously better, but there's a lot of noise out there as well too. Right.
Yeah.
So I think, just from the perspective of we're a very technology-focused industry, there's thousands of vendors, right, all vying for our time, all trying to say and then making sense of all.
Thing, I think, do you find that like to be helpful, annoying, right? Because ultimately, I've always viewed these as like a set of tools that you're going to end up using and employing for your strategy, right?
Yeah, I think it's helpful because it gives an opportunity for a lot of different perspective and a lot of different opinion, right? The thing I love about meeting with multiple vendors, even if it's solutions I'm not necessarily looking for, is they have a perspective and a very, very unique way of solving a specific problem.
Yes.
I think the one aspect that is what I see goes wrong, and I've fallen victim to this in my past too, right, is you get blown away by the technology, you get blown away by the differentiators of the tech,
right?
And you don't consider the people in the process aspect of it while you're implementing it, right? No technology.
Like how do you operationalize it, basically?
Exactly, and no technology works in a vacuum, right? You need to you have multiple things to consider. Who's going to manage that device? Who's going to maintain that device?
Yeah.
Not only that, how does it impact your users and or customer experience, right?
The end user experience, essentially, the employee experience.
Experience, customer, exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of this is about protecting those employees. I guess just a dumb question, but at what point, like now that you have around 3,000, 4,000 people at the company, like where does that shift happen, right? When you have like 20 people, I feel like most people, it's very difficult for them to have full-on cyber strategies, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to 100 or 1,000 or 3,000, and where is that shift? Or what's the next shift?
Yeah, I don't know that there is a clear delineation of like, okay, you have now 1,000 employees or 2,000 employees.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's completely different. every industry is unique for every industry. And I really think that cyber is one of those things that's unique to every single company as well.
Yeah.
Right. There's the cultural aspect, obviously the industry aspect, right? You're in financial services, you have to have a CISO. You have New York Department of Financial Services.
Right.
You're required to have a CISO. So I think it's really dependent on that. What is your risk threshold? What is your risk appetite of the company? I mean, I think every company, big or small, needs to be thinking about security in some capacity. I think at this point it looks different across the board. For us, right, I've noticed a big change and transition, not so much with the employee count, but we're very, we have very clear and concise goals and expectations and plans with the company, and we're really moving into that larger enterprise space. So everything we're doing now is preparing to manage a lot more people, a lot more infrastructure.
Like in case of an acquisition or...
potentially, not necessarily just an acquisition, but natural organic growth as well.
Okay, got it. So you're like, hey, how do we build something that's going to maybe take the same amount of people to manage over time and increase the amount of people we have?
Correct. Yeah.
Interestingly, I have exactly the same problem, right?
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. Because we have a really strong set of people, around 30, 40 people in the company. And our goal, and my goal, has always been, we should be able to use the same exact amount of people to have 10 times the amount of customers' devices, 100 times the amount of customers' devices.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that there should be this the scalability curve of, like, for example, let's say you have 3,000 people today, but you have 12,000 tomorrow. It's like you shouldn't have to suddenly change your cybersecurity program around it.
Correct. Yeah, that's imperative, I think, especially depending upon your individual business and growth plans of that business, right? Everything cyber does, I think this is an important thing to say, everything we do in cybersecurity has to support the business, right? So there's going to be sometimes where we maybe accept a little bit more risk, and there's going to be other times. There's going to be other times where we need to step on the gas pedal and remediate some risk. So at the end of the day, it's really unique to the organization and what the future growth plans are. But to your point, I think, I can't think of a single business that doesn't have plans to grow, right? So scalability is critical because you don't want to be, we just mentioned cybersecurity is changing every day. I can't work if I'm working on my issues that I'm facing today and not thinking about what I'm going to be facing next year, 3 years, 5 years down the road and planning for that. I'm going to be left behind and I'm going to be constantly firefighting and chasing. So I think the proactive...
What's the new thing? Like, what would you say like a new thing that you were looking at?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of opportunity here with AI, obviously. So I think...
when you say AI, well, which part?
Yeah, great point.
Let's be detailed about it.
Yeah, 100%. So we're looking, I think I think the best way I think we can describe where I see the benefits of AI, right? The best way I think it can be described is, cybersecurity is not very different than a lot of other issues we deal with throughout the company, right? We have tons and tons and tons of data, and the starting point is understanding what that data is saying to us, whether that's risks that we have, whether that's threats that are impacting us, right? And the benefit I really get out of AI is now we have had all this data for years, if not decades. What do I do with it? AI gives me the ability to make sense of all that data in a more efficient.
I mean, I tell people, you take a bunch of data, you throw it into O1, it'll give you an amazing output immediately.
Exactly.
It's cool. It's different.
5 years ago, my solution to that would have been like hire a very expensive data scientist, hire very expensive data engineers to help me figure out that. So that's not something that would be available to me in my industry and my team, right? We're a smaller team. We're in the insurance space.
How many people do you guys have in the cyber team? Just curious.
Yeah, so the cyber team, including our threat and operations team, security architecture, we're hovering right around 40 to 50 individuals, and governance, risk, and compliance as well.
And there will be like people, for GRC. I'm sure that's like a lot of the people too, right? Because of the financial services angle of it.
Exactly.
So like
very regulation heavy.
And so are you trying to be efficient with the people you have? Is that like one of your main goals?
100%. Yeah. So,
what drives that efficiency? Like, what makes you be like that? Because not everyone's like that. I've seen a lot of people and they're like, oh yeah, but I need more people. And it's like, but that doesn't really
Yeah, I think it depends where you're at. So I still consider ourselves in a very scaling up phase, right? We have a lot of initiatives. We have amazing buy-in from our executives and leadership as well. So we're really in a steady growth from a cyber perspective. And, I would say a lot of personnel that we have right now are very focused on specific goals, specific programs, specific implementation. I describe it as, the next couple of years while we're in that growth phase, there's going to be capital expense of both human and engineering and talent that will then reduce eventually into a steady state OpEx.
If somebody wants to do what you mentioned, right? Like, okay, I want to take some input data and then use an LLM, let's call it, or an AI model to go in and do something out of that exports. Have you done that now?
So we're working up to it. I think we're one of the places that we're seeing this the most, starting with, like I said, big data. Where is the richness of our data sitting? So just like most other companies, right? Our SIM is going to be the largest source of data. So we have a lot of use cases around our threat hunting capabilities, around our threat detection and anomaly detection capabilities that AI is starting to get built into. The other nice thing is a lot of our vendors and partners are building AI directly into their platforms.
Products. That's what we do, for example, right? You know that.
Exactly.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
Well, you just use that for bettering the product itself, right?
Exactly.
Rather than trying to reinvent. I believe in enhancing small components, right? Those delightful experiences that you build, that helps most.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, the uses of AI are, I'm not in the camp that it's in the next year or even 2 years, it's going to be some revolutionary new change the world very quickly. I think it's going to be longer term, but I think to be successful, it also needs to be incremental as well. And I don't, so I'm not heads down. I'm not, it's always an idea in the back of our mind. Where can we use LLMs or,
to use something different?
To use
but you think that
help. But
I guess the prediction is like, well, yes, companies with products will enhance their products if they want to survive. If they don't want to survive, then they won't do it. What about for you? Do you think that you're going to self-construct, self-utilize, aggregate data and utilize an LLM to analyze that, which you may not be doing today?
As a company, yes. I think
maybe not in the cyber
insurance is a ripe industry for
ripe
AI,
industry for all that stuff, yeah.
Whether you're in the actuarial space, whether you're underwriting.
Or like underwriting something, yeah.
Exactly. And,
Are they already doing that?
We're working towards it, right?
They're testing and so on, right?
Exactly, yeah. So right now it's very, a lot
what
of
do you think is the gap between them testing it and so on versus them actually using it? Or, I don't want to say them, you or one of your colleagues in the company.
Yeah, look, there's a lot to consider on this right now, right, as well. I think, solving first and foremost the data governance issues around AI, the regulatory concerns around AI, as well as the decision-making, the ethics aspects that are potential in AI, right? So we're, when I say we're testing it, these are things that we're working on figuring out right now. And we want to get right, I think, before we are depending on that holistically, right?
Are you like semi-cautiousness, I guess?
Exactly.
So when you go in and you build this and you're like doing that's part of the relevance to today's part. But from a cyber lens, like, what's like your top thing that you want to do right now?
Yeah, top thing I want to do right now is provide a scalable and efficient program that is adaptable long into the future.
Yeah.
Without.
But is that not there from the past, or you want to tweak and improve over time?
Yeah, it's something I think that we're constantly tweaking and improving.
Yeah.
So we're, like I said, it's been a great. I've been with the company 7 years. We're in like I consider this like our second iteration of building. Right. We started out of regulatory requirements. We became compliant, and now it is shifting to that security first mindset.
The model that you're talking about is so cool. It's so interesting because you're like thinking through what is there, and then you're trying to refix and improve and improve. Exactly. You can always do that. That's just the way you are. I wonder, where did that come from?
I I don't know where if it
Some
comes
people like
from
net
any
new things. 'Cause I
one
really like
thing.
what you said. You're like, hey, I don't want to just go and add something new.
Yeah. So I think there's an aspect of, I think that's probably the number one quality you need to have if you want a successful career in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Is you can't be rigid in your thinking. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to constant improvement, right? But like I said, the threats we're dealing with today are not the threats we're going to be dealing with tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I remember, early on in my career, ransomware was just starting to come out. It was a single host got hit by ransomware.
Yeah.
We looked at that host. Now it's entire enterprises are getting hit by ransomware at once, right? Ransom demands went from $300 to $500 to tens of millions of dollars, right? And this is happening very rapidly, right?
Yeah, it can be a scary thing.
Exactly. So, with that, I don't think if you're looking for a career, if you're looking for a life where you can just say, hey, I learned my thing, I'm going to do this and ride it out,
and then that's it. No, it's not.
You need to be nimble.
You're fair. I think it's just what I love is you're talking about change, try new things, but you're also talking about these underlying. Let's do what we've done for the last 10 years better. How do we incrementally change that? And that's so different perspectively. I mean, I talk to a lot of folks, but sometimes they don't mention that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're doing, say, for example, web filter. We're doing this in a certain way, EDR in a certain way. How do we make that ready rather than try to reinvent the wheel?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think really that's
with the same team, for example.
Exactly. And I think, another aspect I'd add to that, right, is, I talk to a lot of different CISOs. I talk to a lot of CISOs, and whether it's the Fortune 500 or, smaller companies, and nobody has this figured out. It's
not exact science.
There's no exact science to this. There's opportunity to explore, iterate, and most importantly, take risks to figure out how to make it better for you and your companies.
Right. And so do you think that you're in this position, maybe you were in the right place, right time, but you did a very good job. But there's a lot of people out there, they want to say, hey, like, how do I be like him? How do I be like Holden? What would you say to that?
Always assume you don't have the answer and you're trying to figure it out.
So rethink the problem, I guess.
Be open that your perception of something or the way you see a problem might not be accurate, right? And I think that is, I think, one of the big things for me where I really felt as a CISO I hit my stride is I brought in a very large team, diverse team, and have given every single person on that team, whether you're the intern or whether you've been on the team a week, you have a voice. And I want you to step up and offer your opinion if you think there's a better way to do it. And I think that's imperative, right? I think you need to have a good team. You also need to have a strong network outside of your company, right? One of the things I have a great group of friends at this point. Personally, I consider them friends. Like you
can go in, bounce ideas.
I can ask a CISO down the road, hey, what are you doing for this? Right. And I think that those are imperative. Just having conversations. And I guess the way I would summarize it is just to be curious, right?
Yeah.
Never get rigid that you have that answer. Be curious. It's open to perspective. We're all figuring this out.
Right.
Nobody has the answers, right?
Do you have an example of where you were able to look at a problem from a different lens, or maybe you're looking at it the wrong way and now you started to do it?
Yeah, definitely. So too many to count. I mean, there's probably the biggest one that we're dealing with right now, right, is talk to any CISO, and one of the first things they're going to do is I need a SIM. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, there's a lot of opportunity to get rid of what we consider the traditional SIM, right?
Yeah.
And really shift more to something slightly different. And, right, what is our goal? Threat detection and response. I need to reduce the time I have to identify threats and issues in my environment.
Right.
Do I need the traditional SIM?
Like a log management system.
Exactly. And because I think the SIM space is
what would you say then? What should that look like? I was never the product manager for SIM, so I don't have a good bearing. I mean, I've used one before at a very, 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 call it an F level of understanding.
Sure.
So what would you say?
I think with the help of AI, right, we're really moving towards this the space where I don't need that structured SIM. We have so many different applications and disparate systems that we need, I need that data in a data lake or something kind of affordable from that perspective too, because now we're dealing with a volume and scale issue as well. And I need a way to search across that quickly. And I think this is another place where I see artificial intelligence really helping in AI, right? 5 years ago, if you said, I'm getting rid of the SIM, I'm going for a data lake solution, data lake-based solution, I would have needed a data scientist, a data engineer.
All these things. Well, I think then this thing can suggest stuff to you, right?
Exactly.
I mean, for example, could tell you what Splunk query could you.
Exactly. 100%. So what
things
query
can
do I need? What concerns?
Fair.
Integrate that with threat intelligence. You can start.
But that is the area, I think, what you're saying is SIM is the area where there's the most amount of manual, the most amount of data science work where that can be infused.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest challenge. And I think it's the biggest challenge most of us deal with because of how important it absolutely is. And also how the coverage and the scale that it takes to make it completely valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is super cool. First off, I got to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This has been absolutely incredible. Thank you. And first off, secondly, it's really fun to see you in New York, and I'm super excited to get you your nice haircut, get you your dope jacket.
There we go.
You're supposed to be wearing this one, actually, but always fun, for this one. And again, for being a nice little big part of our dope community, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
See you next time,
Thanks for having
dude.
me, man.
Yeah, of course. Done. Good.